Great,
Hey.
great to have you here. I'm sure many of you know your story, but let's get back to November 2017. You were the first winner of the McLaren World's Fastest Gamer competition. You won it. What were your thoughts at that moment? Were you thinking, okay, I'm going to make a living out of it now as a Red Bull simulator driver, or you're just thinking, okay, I've got a lot of fun doing so and being bloody good at it? What were your thoughts at that moment?
Well, first of all, hello everybody. As a sim racer, you're always looking for this stepping stone to, let's say, be different. And at the time, in 2017, the crossover between sim racing and real racing was really hot. Companies were interested, and they were just looking to be that first company that took someone from sim racing and put him in the real racing. And I think World's Fastest
Like with the Nissan...
yeah, like the GT Academy. That
yeah.
stopped, but then they were looking for something else. And in hindsight, the guy behind World's Fastest Gamer was the same as Nissan Academy, Darren Cox. So I took the challenge with him obviously taking part, but then also his challenge showed me an option to be from sim racing into the real car, obviously. And this is something which I took with both hands. Like, okay, virtually is great, but I guess many of us sim racers always have a dream to be in the real car. And this was the first moment where that was possible, because I was part of the, let's say, new story.
It provided some racing opportunities as well. Huh? You were driving in Porsche Carrera Cup, Super Cup as well. Now you're in the European Championships in Autocross. Autocross, yeah.
I guess it's on the show.
I think it will be the... No. Well, it will be.
It was on the front.
It was on the slide, but we moved it. We moved it. Are there some things you were learning from the sim racing, and your thought now you're getting back or getting into real world racing, that you're thinking, oh shoot, that's I think bloody different?
Learning is not the right word, but I think if you're a pro sim racer, you can be really good by repetition. You can practice hours and hours and hours and hours, and I was one of those. For the one here who don't know, we go back like 15 years, and then I was a 16, 17-year-old practicing every bloody night to be good at the SFVN leagues we have there. But then I got into the real world, and then it's okay. We have 8 test days. We have 2 sets of tires per day. Sorry, it's raining. The track is evolution, and then next up is qualifying. And then
Good luck.
Standing there, yes. So I was always number one saying, I don't believe in the whole learning year story, etc. But once you take the step from sim racing into the real world, you get faced a lot of situations where you're like, yeah, damn, I have no idea. I have no preparation, and that guy already races 5 years. How am I going to beat this? So this was really difficult in the beginning to get my head around, like the mental battle, knowing, okay, I'm running an uphill battle pretty much everywhere where I race, especially the first year when all the tracks are new. But besides that, the technology nowadays is so good that from driving technique, physics-wise with setups, yes, maybe the values in setup terms don't really match up, but the physics behind it, the logical stuff is still the same. So in that front, it's been a really, really big stepping stone. And to go slightly further than we're actually at already, the things that I learned at Red Bull, I'm quite sure also work now in the real life world. So there is crossover either way.
Okay, good. Well, let's talk about your journey now at Red Bull Racing. But there's some bloke called Max Verstappen who can tell a little bit about your work at the simulator.
Ja, ik praat natuurlijk best wel veel met Rudy over wat we kunnen doen met de auto. En hij zit natuurlijk ook in de ontwikkeling voor volgend jaar. Dus ik test het natuurlijk, hij test het en dan hebben we onze feedback. En ja, soms vraag ik van, ja, kan je dit doen, kan je dat proberen? En dan komt hij natuurlijk terug met feedback. En ja, uiteindelijk, wat ik heel goed vind aan Rudy is, hij kan zich in mij plaatsen. Hoe hij weet dat ik rij en hij kan zich ook in Checo plaatsen. En dan rijdt hij de auto op die manier. En dat is heel moeilijk, want dat kunnen niet heel veel coureurs. De meeste coureurs die rijden gewoon zoals ze rijden. Maar die kunnen zich daar niet verplaatsen in hoe iemand anders zeg maar rijdt. Dat kan hij heel goed.
Ja. Zou jij je in Checo kunnen verplaatsen?
Minder. Ik denk dat Rudy daar wel echt heel goed in is.
Knap. Is hij net zo snel als jij op de sim?
Rudy is meestal sneller, ja.
Sneller zelfs? Ja. Zou hij niet een keer in een Formule 1 auto moeten rijden?
Hij past niet, joh. Hij is veel te lang.
Ja, oké.
Dan zit hij met zijn hoofd voor de airbox, dus dan krijgt de auto geen lucht.
Er moet een mogelijkheid zijn, er moet een mogelijkheid zijn toch dat hij in een Formule 1 auto wordt gezet?
Ja, wordt lastig.
Ja, hè?
Great stuff. Round of applause. Great feedback hearing from Max. He mentioned like you can. No. What are the main differences between Checo's and Max's driving style, if you are able and willing to tell it?
No, we can relate something to it, but I'll keep it relatively vague. It's something which you can see on the TV screen as well. Max is pro on the tracks where you need to come off the brake early and have a lot of roll speed. Take Spa, for example.
Right.
Checo's strength is being really late on the brake and deep into a corner, which works in a 90-degree corner, so it favors the street tracks, etc. But then that said, if you obviously I'm able to look more closely than the outside world to it, the differences are really small. We are talking half a tenth maximum per corner. Yep. The problem is just there's 20 corners, and then you know what it adds up to in the end. Yep. But setup-wise, there's not much difference. Okay. Driving style, obviously, it's finesses. But I think in Holland, we're just really lucky to have someone that is so good at always being that one tiny bit better everywhere.
Yeah, good. So, in a regular week, what does your job involve? What were you doing? What were you doing last week? How's the 2024 car going?
It's blue.
It's blue?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And it has a pool on the side. No, actually just back from England. I drove it on Tuesday and Wednesday this week.
Really? Really?
It's looking promising, but that's what every team will say at this time. And obviously this is also the maximum I can say about this subject. But a regular week, a lot of people think that I'm there 45 weeks a year, which is not the case. It's roughly between 50 and 60 days that I'm literally in the sim per year, which is obviously divided. Yeah. But then if you count it backwards, the sim runs 3, maximum 4 days a week. There's multiple drivers driving it, obviously the race drivers, the function where I'm on, I'm not alone. So it's a good chunk of the days. But let's say a normal track support week means I fly in on Wednesday. Thursday is a normal development session, but then at the end of the day we drive on the specific track. We have the race on that weekend.
But that weekend? Is it
that weekend?
Okay,
yes. And then on Friday we just mirror basically FP1, FP2 on the sim. And after FP2 we go on and try to search for tiny setup differences, or I say difference, that's not what I mean. I mean tiny changes, what makes the car quick. Yeah. Obviously, with the RB19 from last year, we had a really easy world because the car was pretty much a rocket ship everywhere out of the gate. But if I go back to RB18, I remember a Hungary weekend where it was absolutely, well, name it. Yeah. On Friday, we spent all the night up to 4 o'clock, found a different setup, it went on the car, and FP3 was P1. So those weekends are a lot harder than the ones where you obviously need to tweak a little bit.
Those are the weekends where you're thinking, okay, well, I can be involved to improve the car at that weekend.
Yeah, but can you imagine that I'm actually more nervous when I have track support than when I'm at home? Obviously, you can imagine, but if we make changes, and I know that some things were a bit, okay, we hope it works. And then I'm watching FP3 like, oh, please be good. Please be good, because I know who they'll look at in the end. Yeah. That said, I'm not the one deciding if we raise the front or raise the rear, to keep it very simple. It's the engineers. I drive and I complain about everything which can be better. Yeah, yeah. And this is obviously the game back and forward. But it's nerve-wracking at times. Not that I put the pressure on, but just from my side, I want to perform. I'm really proud to have the job, but then you also want to optimize it when you're there and obviously keep the job long-term.
The correlation between the sim and the real world, that's really important, I can imagine. Is that something, well, obviously you have some experience with the other teams, but is Red Bull Racing, is it really good, the correlation between the sim and the car? Obviously, but that needs to be tweaked as well. And I think with a new car, with new suspension and that sort of things, it needs to be tweaked and recalibrated every year, right?
I won't say necessarily every year, especially now with the rules staying roughly the same. It's more when we have a big rule change, like the one in 26, new engines, new aero, fully. Yeah, that's a difficult one.
You already drove the 26 car?
It's not allowed
engine?
Until 1st of January 25.
True. Yeah, that's true. But again, did you drive the 26 car?
I say it's not allowed.
Okay, good.
No, we are far ahead, but not that far. Okay. But obviously for the teams, it's a really big task to get on top of with a completely new philosophy, and Red Bull obviously going to Ford engine. So there's a lot more to it than just that. It's quite impressive to see from relatively close with completely new facilities in Milton Keynes, everything just to facilitate the engines. And I was so proud of the answer that I forgot what you asked.
Oh, no worries. But
correlation. No, correlation.
Yeah.
2 years ago, we obviously went to the new type car, bigger wings, heavier.
Yeah, the 22.
Okay, yeah, then the whole winter you're testing, you're updating, you're hoping, I hope it works. I hope it's good. And that's literally the question you have, like it feels good in the sim, but does it work like this in real life? And then Max says after the first session, yep, sim feels the same. And then it's like, release.
Yeah.
Because obviously you months and months of tiny updates on a package, which then comes together and actually works.
What there was in the beginning of 22. There was in when they went. It was Bahrain, I think. It was the first time the bouncing effect.
Yeah.
Was it something that you already saw in the sim that would be possible?
I have not experienced it myself in a sim at the time. But this is also the period where I was still not as much involved as I'm now. Because in 22, around the Zandvoort Formula 1 race, my new contract got announced. And then my days also got really ramped up, as in spending in England. So I was not fully involved. I was there for some days, but not as much that you get to these kind of points, like the whole purposing actually being an issue.
Okay, okay. So you made a profession out of a hobby. That sounds great, obviously, but do you still enjoy casually driving,
No.
sim racing? No?
No.
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 That's a pity, right?
When I was 16, 17, 18, I did nothing else. I know a special program
Great
called
times.
X-Fire, and it showed the hours of time you spend in a game. I've seen numbers between 60 and 80 in a week. When you say, didn't you not go to school? No, I didn't. It's just sim racing. Nowadays, if I have an event with Team Redline or anything, okay, I look forward to it, I prepare for it, and then tick the box and go on. And I think this is something we see more in the, let's say, experienced esport racers. Like you prepare for an event, you have the event, you go to the next event. And the whole online scene is something where I'm personally not really into anymore. Like say, okay, I have a sim at home, nothing to do, let's just go in iRacing or R-Factor, doesn't matter which game, but let's just race for fun online. This part for me is over, but I guess it's also a bit of age, since I'm now past 30 and... Well,
Yeah, sure, I can imagine. It's for me as well, but it's still having fun online competing, it's a bit gone then.
Well, in the events, no. I had a race with at the Notchlive a few weeks ago with Team Redline together with Max. Great fun.
You can still enjoy it. However, you know, okay, I've got a nice looking sim, but it's not the real deal.
No, not like that. That's only the first day after I've been in England.
Yeah.
Then the home sim feels a bit like Mario Kart. But in general, if I have events, yes, I look forward to it. It's just that the whole, let's say, my evening turns around sim racing, that part is gone.
Okay. But you're still involved in sim racing with Flow.
Yep.
Can you tell me about that?
Flow is my own company where I do coaching virtually and in the real world, and also build simulators. Not build simulators as in I have completely own equipment. I use brands which are also here, like SimCube, SimLab, Cube Control steering wheels. This has actually started at the start of the whole COVID pandemic. People came to me, okay, Rudy, what should I buy? Okay, first time you give advice, and second time you give advice, and by the third time I thought, okay, well...
I can make a living out of it.
Exactly this. So I started Flow. And I'm in the, let's say, the coaching area in the real racing. The drivers need sims. Obviously, the whole situation at me helps. I can deny it, but being the name I have it currently with the Red Bull, everything helps in this region. Yeah. So I took it with both hands. And this is not, the simulator sales is not a thing with 100 sims a year. It hovers between 25 and 35. But I do it next to the real racing myself. So in the winter periods, it's more on that side. And in the summer, it's more, well, Red Bull plus own enjoyment.
Good. And the technical partnership you will have with the engineers at Red Bull Racing, does that help you to improve the drivers itself while you're coaching at Flow?
Not specifically that.
It's other different...
No, it's more that the way of looking at things, which they use obviously in Formula 1 teams, we can specify it to Red Bull, but I think Formula 1 teams in general is a better term. They go in so much detail, physics-wise also, how does a car work, how can you basically manipulate it around problems. This is something which I also said in the beginning, like I'm sure I've learned things, like being full year at Red Bull, I'd learned things which would make me a better driver if I would step back in a Porsche. And of course, we're not talking half a second, but we're talking in details how to deal with situations. So not completely direct, yes, probably people will benefit around me, but it's obviously in the details.
Great. Speaking about Porsches and real-world racing, the last couple of years you were going off-road with Autocross.
Yep.
Did you enjoy that?
Yes.
What are the coming plans?
The same. Yeah.
This year we'll go do the Autocross as well?
Same European Championship. I said earlier as well, like I was the first one to always say I don't buy the whole learning gear stuff. I can now fully come back on my own words that when I stepped into the off-road world, I had to learn a few things. I've been upside down, taken wheels off, done everything you shouldn't do. But the biggest problem is the addiction to it. Like for me, it's a special feeling driving off-road. And yes, my dad used to do it before I got into the whole, let's say, asphalt scene.
Yeah.
It's relaxation, adrenaline, it's everything together for me. So I said, if it fits next to Red Bull, because Red Bull is priority, then I go on with it. And there's always the dream of doing the Dakar rally. And it's getting closer and closer.
Right. Next year? So next year you won't be able to be here?
I think 1 year is too soon, but 2, I won't put money on it, but I think we'll be close.
Wow, really good. Thank you. I can imagine there are a lot of questions. Well, you will be here, I think, well, the rest of the morning, I suppose.
Party afternoon.
Yeah. Are there some questions from the room? There's a question. Microphone, maybe? Or just shout.
Rudy, I have 2 questions for you. The first question that I have is, what was the most important choice that you made in your early sim racing career? So when you were still driving those nights, every night, that got you to where you are today?
I have to say taking part in World's Fastest Gamer. And I was probably the most outspoken, skeptical one when it got announced. Because I said, I don't believe this. Part of a McLaren Formula 1 team? Yeah, sure. Who's going to do this? And then people around me, one of them sitting in front of you, told me, don't be a B and fill the rest in. Take part. Well, won the qualifier, now I'm here today. And I can say from where I live to what I drive to what I do is thanks to taking part in that competition.
All right, and the second question that I have is, well, you're now the Red Bull development driver, simulator driver. What skills from the sim racing scene, from sim racing world, have you taken with you to them that differentiates you from, let's say, a real driver? Like a real driver from Formula 2 becoming a development driver for Red Bull?
I think the biggest, if you take a fully real driver and you put him in a sim, they always complain about one thing, it's lack of feel. And yes, we have a motion sim, but there will always be tiny bits which they will identify, this is not correct, that's not correct. Yeah. Whereas if you come from a sim sign, it's more, okay, this is the plate I have, this is what I need to deal with, and this is what we're going to do. So there's a very big range of testing where a, let's say, sim racer doesn't complain if it's realistic or not, we just do the test. And I think this is a gap in the, let's say, in the driver range in those Formula 1 sims where a sim racer can really take part in.
All right, thank you.
Great stuff, thank you. Another question.
Well, moet ik het Nederlands antwoorden? Of komt het goed? Engels is goed? Yeah. Well, the Formula 1 sim where I sit in is the same monocoque as the real car, so technically it would fit. But Max is being nice to me. He's saying it's the length. I think it's something else. It's more the BOP, balance of performance, length versus width versus everything.
Great. Good question, actually.
Yeah.
Any more questions, maybe from the room? Yeah?
What technical feature would you like to see improved on simulators?
Oh, now I get to the point which I said early on. I would love if there would, yeah, it's a technical feature. If we would get a competition which takes out all the 50, 60, 70, 80 hours of practice everybody does. We have a big pool, 24 tracks, for example. We have 10 cars. And that there's an automated system that says, okay, tonight we race this track, this car, and go. So it's purely driving instead of always the extreme practice to perform. Because then it gets closer to what I say about the real racing, where you say, okay, this is the amount of practice you have, you got to deal with it. And saying this actually now reminds me of Netcar Pro. I'm not sure if many of you here will know that game. It had an option that if with what's called realistic damage, which actually did. If you in a warm-up crashed your car, you couldn't drive for X amount of time because you had repair time. And this put a very strange but cool amount of pressure on it.
Yeah.
But because it was so extreme realistic, the game never really got a push. Yeah. I think there was, I'm looking at Marcel because he knows more, but I think there was a Netcar Pro 2 at some point.
They worked on that, but then it became a set of course.
Yeah, then it became a set of course and it became, let's say, big public friendly. But I would like an option which takes it just that little bit more towards the real racing.
That you just can't just press escape and start over again. Yeah, good. Good question, thank you. Any more questions? Okay, so, gun on your head. What's the best sim at the moment?
Ha! What's it called? Last Garage?
Yeah, really good, really good. Thank you. Rudy van Buren. Great stuff.